Welcome to Retail Retold, the stories behind how that store landed in your neighborhood. I'm Chris Ressa, in conversation with the people and stories shaping retail and real estate. Brought to you by DLC.
Welcome to Retail Retold, everyone. Today I am joined by Dean Salakas. Dean is the owner of the Party People in Australia. I'm excited for him to join the show. Welcome, Dean.
G'day, Chris. How you going?
I'm doing great, man. So, Dean, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I'm the owner of the Party People. Actually, my title goes as Chief Party Dude here in Australia. And the Party People is a party supplies retailer, much like your Party City over there in the US. And we do balloons, decorations, costumes, party supplies, the whole bit. We've got a bricks and mortar store, which is Australia's largest store, and we pick and pack from that store. So it's quite a large store, and I've been into quite a few of your party cities over there. It's on the larger end of a party city, and we do everything for a party.
Excellent. Are the parties different in Australia?
They are a little different, I would say. Look, I'm still trying to work out the differences because I haven't been to that many parties over there in the US. My wife's American, so I've been over there a bit and had a bit of fun over there. But look, we have some noticeable differences, I guess, around Halloween, where Halloween in Australia is very much about scary costumes. You know, people dress up as devils, witches, things like that. Where in America, it's a bit of a free for all sorts of costumes come out. And for us, that's a bit weird. For you guys, you think what we're doing is a bit weird. So it's, that's how it is. But then, all year round, we're having costume parties are quite super common. Like most parties involve costumes or themes and dress ups. So kind of for us, the everyday, dressing up as all sorts of characters is more an all year round thing. It's very hard to, it's very rare you go to a party that there isn't a theme and a costume attached to it. So that's probably a slight difference to it. But yeah, otherwise we're very similar.
Any other supplies that you sell that you probably wouldn't find in a party city?
Oh, look, Party City. I mean, we do buy from Party City's supply here in Australia, so we have that. But I would say, look, I'd say we go a bit. I mean, my business goes a bit deeper in range. M-Scan stores probably stock, I think, around. Oh, look, if I was to guess, 10 to 15,000 SKUs. We stock around 25,000. So nearly double the SKU range. So there's quite a lot of depth in our range in unique stuff. I mean, obviously, we're in Australia. We sell a lot of Australian stuff.
Sure.
A lot more than American stuff. But I mean, we do have a 4th of July category. We sell a lot of that stuff as well. So, it's quite a little bit different in that as well.
Makes sense. Okay. We're going to get more into the business in a little bit. Let's move into the section we call Clear the Air, where we get to learn a little bit more about Dean. I've got 3 questions for you. Are you ready, Dean?
Shoot.
All right. Question 1. When is the last time you tried something for the first time?
The last drum, look, I mean, we've been an innovator in retail for quite a while. And I mean, the thing we're trialing at the moment is a magic mirror that people can try on costumes without getting undressed. You stand in front of the mirror and it's augmented reality. I think a few people would have seen it in fashion, where you stand in front of the mirror and you wave your hand and you try on different things. We're trying it with costumes. I tried it for the first time not long ago. I loved it. I thought, let's give this a go. And we're trialing that in store at the moment.
Wow. So if I walk into your store, I can use an augmented reality mirror and try on a costume.
That's right. Yeah, it could be Batman, Iron Man.
Incredible.
It's pretty fun, actually. I think kids just love playing with it, to be honest. But
That's incredible. Are you seeing results from it? Do you think this is something you're going to stick with?
look, we're still trialing it. Look, it works quite well with COVID because people are a little bit sort of, not wanting to try costumes on and things. So it's working quite well like that. I'm still trying to work out the return on it and the cost because quite, give away costume to make sure that it sits right. I mean, the technology is pretty good. It has, if you jump up and down, it bounces and, as you move, it moves with you and the material moves. So it's quite complicated technology. So So yeah, so we're still working through it and whether the commercials are there, but certainly look, people are loving it. They enjoy playing with it.
I love that. I love the innovation. That's great. I hadn't thought about it for costumes. Obviously, you hear a lot about it in fashion. So very cool. Okay.
Yeah.
That's question one. Question two. What is one skill you don't possess but wish you did?
Look, I would say like I'm not I'm not very good at managing people. Um, I mean, my business partner does that. That's his job in the business. He manages the team. My job's to do marketing and finance and things like that. And I just wish. I mean, look, I manage people. Don't get me wrong, but it's just not a skill that
I
is my
understand.
my superpower.
How big is the staff?
Running about 40 staff.
Got it. All right. Question three. What is one thing most people agree with, but you do not?
Oh, look, I guess e-commerce and where e-commerce is going is a debate I'm always having with fellow retailers. People are saying, oh, online's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And my argument is, I think, you know, I can't see what is going to change in the next 5 or 10 or 20 years that's going to accelerate e-commerce growth. I feel like we're getting to a saturation point. Um, some people just want to shop in store, and I think that's going to be like that forever. And that's my view. I mean, as an e-commerce pioneer, it shocks people when I say that because we were the first party store online in Australia, and I launched that that e-commerce store. But I just feel like if things like 4G and 5G aren't having any major impact on the stats that we see, which they aren't, then the next big thing is going to have incremental impact rather than exponential impact. So I think we're getting to a saturation point of. I mean, I think at the moment excluding COVID, because I don't know what the facts are around COVID, but pre-COVID, I think Australia was sitting around 11% of total retail being online. I think the US, from memory, I think it was around 15% or something. So, I mean, I think there's this big misconception that online is like 90% of the pie when it's actually a smaller component of pie and bricks and mortar that has the lion's share. And I think, look, we'll see it grow, but I think we're getting to a saturation point and I think it's leveling off. And I get that. I have that argument with a lot of people. A lot of people disagree with me.
I I love where you went with that we've reached a saturation point. I have this argument all the time with people. So I love that was your answer.
Awesome.
You said something interesting. You don't see an accelerant that could make it grow exponentially. You see accelerants that potentially could make it grow incrementally, which I think is interesting. So I want to stay on this, even though this is a little off topic. I want to stay on this
No, I'm passionate about it. Go for it.
same.
Let's drill down.
So the some people would say speed of delivery could be the accelerant. If people can get it in a couple hours, that's going to be something that will increase the growth of e-commerce.
Yeah.
What would you say to that?
Yeah, look, again, I still disagree. I mean, the fact that we've gone from, like I think of when I started, because I mean, I've been through the journey, right? We launched online. We had click and collect from the beginning. So we launched online in 99. Um, and, we had regular delivery to start with, and no one had anything other than that. We added express. Now, you would argue that that's a pretty big jump from regular to add express. And then we added same day, which again we were first in not first in retail, but first in party at least to add those things. And you would argue they're major leaps in additions to an online. To go from having it same day to 3 hour to 2 hour to 1 hour, we're talking incremental differences there. And I just don't feel like if we didn't get and like over the last 20 years in Australia, we've seen it go from 0 to 11%. We've seen growth in the last 5 to 7 years averaging 1%. So these major innovations we've seen around delivery in Australia going to same day and same day becoming mainstream, and even things like I said, 4G and 5G coming along, and people saying, "Oh, faster internet's going to blow things out of the water." Those things haven't had major impact. They've had a 1% impact a year. So I can't see, delivery, with drones. If drones start getting up and becoming mainstream, and I don't know if you've watched the comedy thing with Ronnie Chen. I want it now. Um, before you even think of it, it arrives. If it gets to that point, I still don't think we're going to see major shifts in e-commerce growth compared to bricks and mortar. I think there is still, fundamentals around human behavior that they want to go out and pick some people. Not everyone's the same, right? You're going to have a lot of people that just feel like ordering groceries online is just the best thing ever, and going to want to do it no matter what. And you're going to have other people that just want to go and pick their own fruit from the supermarket. So um, I think you're going to still have that percentage of the population that is different to the rest and is going to want to do things differently. So I think, yeah, I don't see major delivery of innovations accelerating. I see they'll add something. There'll be people going, wow, I can now do it. It's a bit more convenient. But I don't see it. If adding express from having regular post and adding same day didn't have major impacts, then how could, going from 3 hour to 1 hour? That's just my view.
Spot on. There's two other things that I would point out to this. One, I always talk about the cost. Eventually, the people are going to have to pay for this, and not everyone can afford these quick delivery. And two,
Yeah, bless you.
thank you. And two, one of the things I said, people talk about the rise of online in COVID. And I often say, okay, let's whatever the number is, in a place where people weren't allowed, quote unquote, I'm using air quotes, to go out of their house and shop. Still today, e-commerce is only 20, 25%, depending on which math you read in the US,
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
total retail sales. And they weren't even allowed to go out and shop. And that's all they wanted to do was go out and shop. So I don't think there could be a bigger accelerant than that, where the
Yeah,
stores were closed. And it's
absolutely.
still, you know,
And I would argue that maybe even COVID has pushed us to that um, that point of saturation because, like you said, people have been forced to order online. Right now in Australia, retail is closed. Even a lot of essential retail is also closed. So limited to supermarkets, and there's a very few retailers that are allowed to be open at the moment. So everyone can order online, whether you're a tech savvy or not tech savvy. You've been forced to order online at the moment in the current environment. So I feel like everyone knows what online shopping is now. It's not like it's some novelty, and people who aren't using it just aren't ever going to use it. Or people like, I mean, I'm a e-commerce, digital native, but I don't do 100% of my shopping online. There are certain things I go and shop for. I've got a hobby. I love my fishing. I'll go and I still want to go and look at the fishing rod that I'm going to buy. I don't want to buy it online. I mean, I might showroom sometimes. I might go in and have a look and then buy it online, but I still buy on, if I go in the store and the salesperson gives me a really good advice and I'm there and I want it now, I'll just take it now. I might as well there. I'm there. They've given me a good deal, So I think, I think we might have seen COVID push us. Like people ask me, do we think COVID will be that you know that curve breaker that'll push us right ahead in terms of e-commerce. Look, maybe right now, but I think it'll settle down, and maybe we're just at saturation point. And I think that's the way it's going to be. And I think that
wow,
saturation point, by the way, is less than 50%. I think bricks and mortar is always going to be king in retail.
I hear you. Me too. Well, that was awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. What a great perspective from an actual retailer and an actual e-commerce owner who was first to the party, pun intended, in 1999 with e-commerce. So thank you for that. Okay. I want to move on to the story. So I know it's in Australia. Where is the Party People location in Australia?
So yeah, look, we got a great story. I mean, my mum started the business 30 years ago. She was a clown, 35 years ago now.
Clown. She was a clown.
Yeah, she did clowns. She did parties and went to kids' parties and did that. Um, oops, sorry, I lost you there for a second.
No worries.
Um, so yeah, so she was a clown and she did kids' parties and um, So, sorry, I've just moved the screen moved because my phone
You're
rang
good.
just then. Should turn the phone off.
You look
Um,
so your
so
mom was a
yeah,
clown.
yeah. So she was a clown and she was doing kids parties, and then she decided to open up a little kids party venue, where kids could come and have the party there, which 35 years ago they didn't exist actually. Um, as you know now, they're a pretty big business. I think the US has some pretty cool ones as well. And the venue McDonald's at the time, I think this was in the 80s, brought out their party venues. You could have parties at McDonald's, and that wasn't good for business. So she had a bit of retail, and that was going gangbusters. That was going great. So she converted the whole business, the whole venue, into a retail store and started doing party supplies and selling stuff for parties instead of hosting them. And it became a party store. And then we grew from there. And um, we're located in New South Wales. Our stores in Drummoyne, New South Wales, Australia. And as a teenager, my mum had this idea of launching an online business in 1998. So she gave it to me and said, "Here you go, son, figure this out." And yeah, I mean, as a high school kid, I launched an online store, which was pretty fun. And it kind of grew from there because we were early in the space, and quite fun time. I mean, for a kid, there was just so much opportunity and it was great. I mean, I could come up with ideas and I'm like, oh, why don't we can add, express shipping. We can do it this way, and we can, all these ideas were flowing. And, my parents backed me to do the development that was needed to get these things off the ground. And, it was pretty cool. We started to see the results. I mean, in the beginning, it was one order a month and we were excited every time that one came in. But then, it started to grow, getting one a week and multiple a day. And, it was quite a cool journey. So yeah.
So the store, is it in the same location that it was when your mom started this clown party event business?
Nah, look, we've gone through quite a bit of a transformation over the last 10 years since I became CEO. Um, we we expanded the site. The site moved when my mum first started it. It outgrew the site, so she moved it. And then I when we took over, we bought the we bought the neighbor's business. It was a secondhand fridge business. We had to buy the whole business so we could get the space because we just didn't want to move. We bought his business so we could get his lease. Um, and we bought some outside storage, and we just kept expanding on the site. And then that we outgrew that, so we moved into what now is Australia's largest party store in Sydney. It's just on the fringe of the city in Sydney.
Okay. So let's back up. So a bunch of things here. We'll get
Yeah,
to both the e-commerce and the physical. So as it was expanding, you had to purchase the adjacent business and you didn't want to get into that business, but that was a way for you to get to their lease.
that's right.
Fascinating. So what was their business?
They were in a I think they're secondhand fridges and secondhand like appliances.
Okay. So how big was their space?
Uh, oh, I know in square meters.
What was it in square meters?
In square meters, I think it was about 400 square meters,
Okay. So it's 400 square meters. So you you
which
buy
doubled our space basically.
it doubled your space. And for those who don't know, 400 square meters is about 4,300 square feet. So you went from like 4,000 square feet to about 8,000 square feet. And you bought this business. How long did it take you to convince the owner of that business to buy his business?
Um, Not long actually. I mean, we had the landlord was also unhappy with that tenant because he wasn't
Got it.
paying his bills. And um, when we offered him some money and said, look, obviously he had some trouble with the landlord, we offered to pay out that. And the landlord was happy because he was going to get his money, and he was worried about not getting any at all. And the guy, obviously the business wasn't a great business, so the money helped him exit that. And it was just a win-win for everyone in that scenario.
Excellent. So you buy this guy's business. Now you're about an extra 400 square meters. And then when did you decide that, you know what, we need to be even bigger?
Um, it came out of necessity. I mean, that journey was painful, I'll be honest. It was, as we took on the next door lease because we just were running out of space and capacity, and we were growing at triple digit growth through that early phase of us taking over. Because when my
Wow.
brother and I took over, um, we were, we were doing, like I said, we were doing triple digit growth. When we took over, we really launched the business in terms of accelerating because my parents weren't really as ambitious as we were. So they were just happy to have a job. Um, where us, we took it over with a mission to make it massive and really dominate online, and we really accelerated that. And that's we were smashing it. I mean, we were Google AdWords in Australia, our first customer, actually. So we were the first people to launch on AdWords. Um,
Unbelievable. So what time
and
period are we in right now when you expanded into the space next door?
well, 2003 is when we launched on AdWords, but 2007, so 2008, 2009, roughly around that period is when we expanded next door.
Wow. And that's when you started to have triple growth. What got you
Yeah,
the what do you think was the accelerant that from your parents' complacency to you deciding I want to blow this thing up?
yeah, you might have just turned this chat into a 4 hour chat, but that was actually like we came up with a formula to scale essentially. So we came up with a formula that said, this is what we can afford to spend on marketing, and every time we spend that $1, we get $1.50 back. Um, and what we did was when we came up with that formula, we removed all budgets on all our marketing. So we didn't have any budget. It just had to meet that criteria of if you spend X, you get Y. So like things with AdWords as one example, and AdWords is just like Google Ads is one example. But with that, my parents had budgets on it. We went, no, take the budgets off. The cost per clicks and the conversion rate meet a formula that we're happy with. So let's how come I mean the easiest way to put this was we were spending $1 getting $1 $1.50 profit back. So we're spending $1, but the net effect of that transaction was 50 cents profit every time we spent $1. So we were like, well, how can we spend as many dollars as we can?
Yeah.
Because every dollar we spend is profitable. So we just came up with that formula and unleashed it, and it
What
just
words were you buying?
uh, I mean, we had 3 million keywords at the time. It's a little more
Wow.
sophisticated now, but every word that is related to party, we bought it. I mean, long tail keywords, and as people might know, long tail sort of performs better. So, we were everything from, you know, I don't know, Halloween party supplies, Sydney, is a more long tail keyword, uh, or candy, Halloween candy supplies, Sydney, or something like that was a bit more sort of long tail. But all the way up to the top to the word party supplies, which is the most competitive keyword in our business. We're competing all the way up to the top. So yeah, just a very
Unbelievable.
monster of a AdWords account that we built out there.
We're going to get back to that. So in about 2008, 2009, you expanded. When did you get this new store that's the largest party store in Australia?
That was in 2011. And I mean, at that point, we were at, we were just bursting. I mean, like I was kind of just going to say there, as we were growing, we added staff, and then we added, we needed more computers. So we added more computers. We needed more stations. So we added more stations. We added more space. We just kept adding on. And it got to a point where it was just too much. And by the time we moved in 2011, we were running a 24-hour shift, running 3 shifts for 8 hours, picking pretty much the site didn't close. We were we're just picking all day long. That's around Halloween time anyway. Through summer, we were, running a 24-hour shift. We just physically couldn't put any more people, stations, anything into that old site that we had to move. And so we moved the operation in 2011, and yeah, I mean, plenty of capacity here. So it was
Your
terrific.
new location, did you buy it or lease it?
Leased it.
And is it in a shopping center? Is it freestanding?
Freestanding. I might send you a photo after this, but yeah, it's a freestanding store that's just out out on its own on a major road. In Australia, shopping's a little different in large format to the US. In the US, you guys, well, I know, but commonly, the large format retailers are in, sort of shopping precinct, if you want to call it that. I don't know what you call them, but they're, there's a bunch of large formats all together. In Australia, it's more like there's a main road and the large formats just are next to the main road. So it's a little different in terms of how large format works here. So we're just a large format on.
Editor, he just got disconnected.
Sorry, I lost you there.
No worries. All good. So we're back. Okay.
I don't know where
So,
you got off there. I'm not sure.
so, um, how did you choose this specific location?
Yeah, look, it was an interesting decision. I mean, we were looking at quite a few locations. I mean, we were pretty limited because there's not a lot of space around that was over 1,000 square meters, which is what we were after. Again, I don't know the the calculations for that, but we we had a couple of options. We basically just went around Sydney's main roads because we know we wanted to be in a busy area. Um, Looked at a bunch of locations and then just started narrowing them down. I mean, we were in a bit of a hurry, so we just, to be honest, this location in the end was by far the best choice. But um, we we were choosing between two sites, and the difference between them was this landlord was prepared to give us, 30 years worth of options on the site. So we were able to get a lease that guaranteed us 30 years tenure. And the other one was the opposite. We could get maximum 8 years, and they wanted a demolition clause, which allows them to knock it down at any time and rebuild and kick us out. So, that was the difference. In the end, there were a lot more positives that came out of the site that we just hadn't assessed, and we learnt. I mean, we got lucky. We didn't learn the hard way. When we, in hindsight, we made the right decision. But there was a bunch of things. I mean, we moved into an area that is basically the center of Halloween in Australia, which we didn't know about. And Australia's the street that does Halloween the biggest in the country is literally 2 blocks away from our store. Um, the road we're on compared to the other road that we were looking at, I mean, the traffic is 10 times busier. Again, we didn't really know that corner of the city that well, both of them, so we weren't really that aware. But turns out we made the right decision, so we got a little bit lucky as well.
Excellent. Going back a little bit, Google AdWords was like the first in online marketing that like really blew up. But then in comes all this other social media marketing. I'm assuming being you're digitally native, you do a lot of social media marketing.
Yeah, yeah, we do a lot of social media stuff. Yeah.
And so what type of things are you doing social media marketing wise?
Look, at the moment, it's a little different. I mean, at the moment, because of COVID, we're doing a lot because people can't travel more than 5 kilometers here in Australia under current restrictions. So we're doing a lot more local area stuff. So, jumping into the local community groups, posting stuff in there, engaging with local community groups, um, just stuff like that. It's probably a little bit more niche and entrepreneurial type stuff we're doing now rather than sort of big campaigns that spray marketing out there. It's more getting down and getting very personal with people. And, I mean, we did a program a couple of weeks ago where we asked people to tag a friend that they, because we've been in lockdown for I don't know how long. And we just said, look, people are probably feeling a bit down. Tag a friend that deserves a smiley face bouquet, and we'll send you a bunch of balloons. And that campaign blew up. It was just crazy the amount of people that just started tagging their friends so that we would send them a bouquet. And so we've been running variations on that style of marketing. But that was just something we thought, oh, it's an idea. Let's test this out, and it just blew up and became. Now we're just finding out how many other ways we can do similar things like that at the moment.
What was the tail end after you did that? Did you gain new customers?
Look, we gained new customers. The cool thing about the exercise is that it paid off. Like, I mean, the cost of a bouquet to us is not that much. The number of people that commented, so the marketing was great. But on top of that, it generated sales immediately from the post. So we generated more profit from the post than was intended. I mean, the initial thing was let's just do a feel good thing for the community and give back. But it ended up being a real profitable marketing initiative. So, by accident. So, we did things after that, like people, there was a lot of homeschooling going on here. So we did homeschooling packs and we did a whole bunch of just giveaways. And we're just doing giveaways and jumping onto local community groups and saying, tag friends and who do you think deserves this or deserves that. And it was just a great thing we could replicate in a number of different ways.
Excellent. Really cool. Thank you for sharing. Oh, I want to move on here in both e-commerce and in physical. What percentage of your sales are in the store versus online?
Oh, look, it does fluctuate. I would say at the moment, probably 75% online, 25% in store.
Okay. And then in a non-COVID time.
Oh, that's in non-COVID. That's in non-COVID.
Okay.
Right now, it's probably like 90-10 because the store's closed. So the store's doing virtually nothing at the moment.
And so if 75% are done online, why is the store so critical in your opinion?
Um, Look, we're market leaders online, so we're obviously covering the whole of Australia in terms
I
of
see.
what we're doing there. The store itself, standalone, is also a very profitable business. So we're actually looking at opening up more stores because that model is and the store model is more profitable than the online model. With online you scale and but you are competing with every other party store in the whole country. So things are very competitive in that respect. As far as bricks and mortar goes, you do have a local area that you can carve out, and if you do that really well, what we've seen with these Drummoyne stories, we've seen competitors disappear for quite some distance from the store over the years. So we've basically carved out a space where we've been able to outcompete um, many of the smaller competitors that were in the area, and they've slowly over the years disappeared.
Interesting. You just said something though that is so remarkable that I think is what most people wouldn't think, which is the store model is more profitable than the e-commerce model.
Yeah, yeah.
And what are the drivers of that? Is it the shipping? Is it the customer acquisition cost? What are the drivers of that?
It's kind of all of the above, I guess. Like with an online store, you've got to pick the order for the customer. You've got to type messages to them instead of talking to them, which is slower communication. Orders are in boxes, so they get moved around. So there's just a lot more admin and labor, and labor costs in Australia are, I believe, double. I mean, our minimum wage at the moment, I think, is $27 or something like that here in
Oh,
Australia. So labor's expensive here compared to there. So it's a little different. And that's what you might see a bit different in retail. I notice when I go to the US, I'm like, oh my God, how they got so many people running around keeping their stores looking beautiful. We can't afford that. But there's a difference in labor. So there's quite a difference in the model in terms of retail here in Australia versus in the US. But yeah, definitely labor is the big driver. So yeah, it's expensive to service online customers. We've got to pick their orders. There's expectations of all those costs not being passed on. you absorb freight costs. I mean, we don't offer free freight. We offer $9.95 nationwide delivery as our cheap option. Um, and even in that respect, like from a shipping cost, we're subsidizing that. So our shipping cost is more than that. And you're absorbing those costs with a bricks and mortar store. um, the customer comes in, they browse. I mean, you do help the customer, but it's not, you're not there sort of waiting on them hand and foot. So they go and grab their own stuff. I mean, the average customer goes and grabs their own stuff, goes to the checkout, you scan it out, and off they go. And that's the labor cost. So the labor is a major component. The real estate issue is that the real estate is really our marketing cost to some degree. I mean, we do a lot of marketing, but people know we're here because we're a physical site. So people drive past, they see us, they know where we are. That is part of the marketing. But like you said, with digital, you've got to buy every customer or most customers if you want to grow. You've got to buy those customers and you've got to try to buy them profitably, which means when it comes to that formula I mentioned earlier, you're really squeezing your net profit at the end of the day, to try to get volume. You try to trade off that volume versus profit.
Oh yeah,
We're in the business of making money. We're not in the business of scale. So,
for
so
scale's sake.
I chase profit. I don't chase scale.
Amen. I hear you. The the one point that you made, I think that people wouldn't think is the labor piece because people think of store employees. The other thing that you mentioned before when you were talking about you have to buy the customer online. I also imagine that that formula has probably changed. It was a lot more profitable Google AdWords in 2003 than it is today. Is that true?
Yeah, I'll tell you something that people freak out when I tell them that when we launched on Google, so Google launched in Australia in 2003, and we became their first customer in August. Uh, and I was doing a university project, which is a whole nother story, and that's how I came across Google launching in Australia and did it as part of a thesis of my final year. And at that time, we paid 1 cent per click. So every customer cost me 1 cent. It's just, to think of that today, people just be like, that's just ridiculous. But that's how it was when it started. I mean, Google is a competitive place. You're bidding against other people. That's the model. So when I launched, there was no competition. There was no one to bid against. I was the only when I put in an ad for 1 cent, I was the only one that appeared for that keyword. That was how it went when it started.
What's it cost today?
Oh shit. I mean, it varies. And like you said, that formula was very simple back then. I had one formula for all my ads. Now, almost we break it down by category, group. That formula, I mean, the formula is the same, but the inputs and outputs are different for every category, for every keyword. We've got it very granular, that formula. We use it. So it varies. I mean, on a very highly competitive keyword. I mean, to be honest, now it can cost whatever you want to pay. I mean, you pay $10 on
Right.
those
Yeah. Yeah.
keywords. We got competitors competing on party supplies that are paying, from what we can see, $4 or $5 a customer. Um, and we won't go past 50 cents because we know that's the profitable mark. But we do notice. I mean, Google has taken away some stats and data that we used to be able to get, but we used to be able to see that we were appearing in the top 5 results, probably averaging position 3 and 4 on, say, party supplies. But we were appearing 98% of the time. There were this was a few years ago when that had that data. We were seeing 10 or 15 competitors that would appear above us every time they appeared, but they only appeared 5% of the time. So what that told us was we were running a sustainable model that meant that keyword was profitable for us, and appearing in position 3 or 4 was what was profitable. Appearing in the top 2, just I mean, we didn't care about position; it was all about profit. But what I'm saying there is that our position ended up at 3, and whether if our position was 3 or it was 10, whatever that position was, that was profitable, and that's what we go with. And if it meant sacrificing volume, we were happy to give that business away.
Unbelievable. What sage advice and what an incredible look at, you know, ha- going from 1999 starting the e-commerce to today and the store's still more profitable. Well, thank
Yeah.
you for that unbelievable story. Let's pivot a minute, talk a couple minutes. Running a business in COVID during the COVID time period in Australia has been what seems to be different than the US.
Yep.
Talk to us about that. You mentioned some things earlier that I kind of glossed over. You can't go more than 5 kilometers from where you live, and still today, and it's September for those who are listening, September 2021. In Australia, many stores are still closed.
Yep. Yep. Look, two things I would say helped us through COVID that were sort of brewing pre-COVID that we were able to lean on that helped us through COVID. One was we're a very innovative business. We've been pioneering a lot of different things, like I mentioned, smart mirrors, and we've done scan and go. And look, we've done a lot of tech pioneering in the last 10 years. So um, we're very innovation focused. So we're constantly pivoting. So the team was used to pivoting for starters, and used to putting up with my crap in terms of constant new toys to play with. Um, and secondly, I guess, planning and the fact that we're an events business. Halloween is an event, but to be honest, we have over 100 of those events. I mean, we have even a thing called Elvis Day that we plan for. So to give you an idea, there's, Elvis Day, Easter, St. Patrick's Day, Oktoberfest. We plan for events. So when it came to COVID, we were able to use some of those skills and put them to the test. And even it tested us. I mean, when COVID first hit 2 years ago, in March, um, we were we were able to pivot pretty quickly, and we won a lot of awards for this actually over the last 12 months, 18 months, where our business was down 95%. And what me being the finance guy in the business, I said to my business partner, the fact that you can't have parties and parties are illegal, what the hell are the 5% buying? Um, and so our staff went and asked that question to every customer that checked out. And what jumping forward, what that resulted in within a couple of weeks was a complete re-engineer of our website to focus on things people could do from home that we could service rather than focusing on parties. And, we went from being down 95% to gradually getting up to par, and then ended up finishing the year in a COVID year beating the prior year that was not COVID.
Wow.
and
I
and
just
that was
got
all on a
chills. That's
pivot.
amazing.
Yes, and that was just purely focusing on helping people in isolation. I mean, people were stuck at home. We were so we had a category called coronavirus survival on our website that was on the main page, and people could go there and they could get things to do at home. It was baking products. It was products that we already stocked. It was all part of our normal range. There was one category that was a new category, but most products in there were stuff we already had. So it was games, it was toys, it was things you could do from home, arts and crafts, homeschooling stuff, products we already stocked that could help people with those things. With balloon bouquets and doing balloons, we had a happy ISO birthday bouquet and things like that. We just had a bit of fun with it, and that paid off big time for us. And um, that really kicked us off through that first phase of of the pandemic in 2020, which was so that was I couldn't believe we got that result at the end of the year. It was just I mean I shocked we were shocked, and the team got a real pat on the back because they really pushed through a tough time in that phase.
Yeah, that
I don't know if
is
you want to touch on that first, but then the second bit is about planning, which is what we've learned in this second phase of the
well,
pandemic.
yeah. So two things. One, was there ever a time in the last 18 months where you were allowed to open, or have you guys been closed the entire time?
Now we were we were open through the first phase of the pandemic, albeit not many people coming in. It was a weird. I mean, the government here in Australia basically said people can't shop in specialty retail shops, but they didn't force us to close, so it was a bit strange. But so we were open, and some people were still coming in. A lot of people were still buying online or click and collect or whatever that was.
Masks
Uh,
required?
Masks were required. In the last, I don't know what it's been now, 3 months or 2 months, we've been closed. But otherwise, we've been open for the
Okay.
rest of it. But
When
people have been told they can't shop with us, which is just, you know, I mean, we won't go to governments and all that stuff, but it was just a strange time where governments basically said you can only leave home to shop for groceries and hardware and not party supplies. But we're not going to shut down party stores. So it was-
when you were open for, you know, pre 3 months, like from when you got closed to reopened and then the time you got closed again, how were sales?
So yeah, store sales definitely when the stores was forced to close, that's when sales have fallen through the floor. So we're down around 50%. But I mean, we're still doing 50%, and that's the store only, not the online. So the store's doing, phone orders and balloon deliveries and things like that.
What about when it was open through the COVID? Was it as normal?
Um, I would say not really, no. It was still down a bit because, people were having it was strange actually. What we saw was that when the government lifted restrictions, so when we were on, parties were completely illegal, to then being they lifted restrictions late last year to say you can have 20 people in your home. We exploded at that point. That's
That's
when
what
we
I was getting
really
to.
exploded.
Yeah, that's what I was getting to. You had to be higher sales than even pre-COVID.
Yeah, I mean, one of the factors, I mean, is also that people couldn't party at a pub or a club couldn't go to a restaurant. So the only way people could party was at home, and we really capitalized on that, which is where that second part of what I was going to talk about comes in around planning and contingencies. Really helped us out.
So we're going to go there. I just have one thing because it was one of the most profound things that I've heard anyone say through COVID, which was you said, wow, sales are down 95% because it doesn't matter where you sell e-commerce or in a store, it's illegal to party. So people can't buy anything. But your question was, what are the people buying, the 5% buying? And you
Yeah.
realized they were buying these things like arts and crafts and things. And so you went all in on that stuff. Coronavirus, coronavirus survival kit, genius. These are great. That's just a great insight. I love the question. What a innovative, simple question to ask that clearly led to a lot of great results. So kudos to you. So that was the first piece. You went all in on that 5% category. The second piece is planning. Talk us through that.
Yeah, so like as a business that's in events, obviously we do a lot of planning. We have Halloween, which we plan in January. We have Easter, which we plan again 9 to 12 months in advance. And there are probably about 30 high level steps in getting to an event, from marketing, merchandising, emails, trading hours. There's a whole bunch of things to running a business around events, and planning is the key. And we learned that in the early days. You asked about the business transitioning from a small store to a big store. I mean, we went in that first 2 years, we actually had to shut the online business at one point because we couldn't cope with volume because we weren't prepared for it. And that was a lesson that we learned the hard way, and a big failure because we lost hundreds of thousands of dollars that year. And we learned we just had to plan better and be more sophisticated at planning. And that's paid off now in COVID times because when it came to lockdowns and changing restrictions, and in Australia, I mean, I'm not sure what it's been like over there, but every week it was felt like the government had changed its mind on how things were going to work, and businesses were struggling. For us, it was pull out what we normally do and just do it in a bit of a different way. And again, we got lucky that we had those things as disciplines. So for example, when we got locked down, we had a contingency plan for getting locked down. We had that ready to go. So as soon as the government said, right, we're shutting you down, retail, even though we didn't think it was going to happen because they hadn't up to that point. When they turned around and said we're shutting you down, retail, we had a plan that we whipped it out. And by the way, the government didn't give us much notice. They pretty much said you're shutting down tomorrow, and they did it on a weekend. So I think on Sunday we got the news that you're going to be shut down tomorrow. We were able to whip out a plan, put a whole bunch of things in place, and by the next day we were ready to operate as a closed retail store. And that meant certain people were ready to work from home. They had the tasks that they could do from home. There was the communication channels in place to operate the store, the systems and procedures for click and collect for a closed store. Everything was ready to go. And that was, again, very key because what we heard across our industry was, people got taken by surprise by the lockdown. They weren't ready for it. They didn't have a, they couldn't operate because they didn't know, you weren't even allowed to get back in the store. If you didn't have a IT system set up to allow work from home and remote working, which we had already in place because of that contingency, you couldn't get into your business to fix those IT issues to get your business working in a remote manner. So we were ready to go, and I think that was very key in that we had come up with all these contingencies for all these possibilities. So we've come up with contingencies for reopening now, as an example, and how that's going to work, and what are the government restrictions going to be when we open, and how is I mean we're going to open. We're now the time of this chat with you. It's the 21st of September. We're heading into October. We're a closed store, and we're opening for Halloween in roughly 2 weeks. The government's going to open us up. Now, our history told us from last year that it's going to be massive, and Halloween is always massive for us. But that requires a huge amount of planning, which we're still finalizing some of the details at the moment. But the idea is we've been planning to open for weeks and coming up with contingency plans on how we might open, so that when the government says, "Hey, you're opening in a couple of weeks," like they have now, um, we've already halfway there in terms of what needs to be done. And I think that's important, is to have plans and contingencies for when things might change and trying to predict that.
I'm an avid sports fan, and I wrestled in college. And like many sports, there's cycles where you're training hard and then you're not training. And in collegiate sports, there's probably even a period where you're doing no training. And I had a friend who was like in like wrestling shape, not the top of it, like the peak, but in baseline wrestling shape, like all year round. And he never like did what everyone else did, which was they got in peak shape, then they got out of shape, peak shape, and then got out of shape. He was always in like the baseline strong wrestling shape. And one time I asked him and he said something profound to me, which was, if you're always ready, then you never have to get ready. And that's what your planning scenario basically told me, right? If you're always ready, when something unexpected happens, you don't have to get ready for it. You are ready for it. And
Yeah.
so, uh, thanks for sharing. That was great. Okay. It's been a long time. I want to bring us to the final part of the show. It's called Retail Wisdom. I've got 3 fun questions for you. Are you ready?
All right, let's do it.
All right. Question 1. What extinct retailer do you wish would come back from the dead?
Oh, extinct retailer. Um, yeah, look, we had an electronics retailer here called it was called The Good Guys, and sorry, it's called yeah. Actually, can we do this one again?
Yeah. Question
Um,
1. What extinct retailer do you wish would come back from the dead?
look, I used to be y- actually, I need to pause for a second. I need to rethink about this one.
It's
I
just
had it, and I've lost it. I've lost it.
a store that you used to go to that doesn't exist anymore.
I think music stores. I mean, I used to love going to music stores. But they just don't exist anymore, and it would
They
be
don't.
it was cool. I used to be a DJ and bought my DJ equipment from a music store even, and you can't go to them anymore. So
It's true. You're an innovative retailer. Maybe you can bring back the music store.
you never know. You never know.
Okay. Question 2. What's the last item over $20 you purchased in a store?
Last item over $20 was a fishing rod, um, and it was a long way over $20.
Understood. Okay. Final question. I think I know the answer though. But if you and I, Dean, were shopping at Target, and I know Target where you are and where I am is a little bit different. But if you and I were shopping at Target and I lost you, what aisle would I find you in?
I mean, in Australia we have fishing in our Target, so
Yeah, I
you'd find me in the
figured.
fishing aisle since that's my hobby. Yeah,
Excellent.
that's where you'd find me.
Well, listen, Dean, this has been terrific. You've been a fantastic guest, given everybody some unbelievable insights. Thank you so much. Good luck over the next few weeks as Halloween opens. You're going to crush it, I'm sure.
Thanks, Chris. I really appreciate it. I hope so. Fingers crossed.
Appreciate you watching. Hit subscribe. See you in the next one.